So straight up decided to create a sort of lo-fi song and had some thoughts about what I might include as speech or voiceover during the song. But first up, I needed a bit of inspiration, and so I went to one of my all-time favourites, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I also looked through YouTube for examples of songs that have got a similar style as to what I wanted, and took inspiration from parts of their songs and involved some other ideas into my own. Now I'll just give you guys a quick look at the first part of making my song, download the movie, get voice clips from, and I also show websites I use to look at some really awkward quotes. Now at this point I decided on a few quotes that I was going to include in the song, and then looked at what other songs I could include to give my song a more original sound. I remember one of my favourite retro songs, Mr. Sandman, and so I decided to download it and include it into my song somehow. I also looked at some other songs I listened to at the time and tried getting instrumentals out of them to put in my song and play around with. I also discovered a few helpful websites with samples to do the same thing. Now at this point I finally figured out how to take sound straight out of the movie and begin putting the quotes into my song. I did this by the same way that I've been recording my screen, which is through a program called QuickTime, and it makes my life a whole lot easier than what it was before I found it. So now that I had a solid base to my song, I began to work on editing the sounds implemented to make them my own. And so I experimented with different ideas in GarageBand and attempted many different plugins, mainly including echo, reverb, and bass, while also making some fresh EQs, as well as lengthening and shortening other sounds around them. And as you can see, the yellow lines on the screen are representing three things, as I had a few glitches, and they can represent either volume, bass harshness, or even echo sometimes. But the pink lines is what is meant to be showing echo, and the blue is for the reverb. So it was quite fun to play around with the dials at the bottom of the screen as well, just to give certain sounds more presence in the piece, while dampening the sounds that were a bit too harsh and overpowering for the rest of the song. So as my song was getting well underway, we noticed that my song was slightly out of time when listening to it with a metronome. And while this didn't seem like much of an issue, logistically this made the song sound slightly out at certain points. And so to counteract this, we decided a few things, but what we decided in the end was to include more movie quotes at an attempt of covering it up a little bit and making it less noticeable, by adding in other sounds to sort of distract you, really. So we did attempt to change the tempo, but the main melody had a fluctuating tempo that changed from the start to where it was just like 10 seconds later, and so this proved very difficult. And because of how late we found out about this issue as well, it just made it not worth restarting to do the whole thing again, just because of a simple little tempo issue, really.
In paradise up above, if you will tell me I'm the only one that you love, life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello, hello again, shaboom, and hope we'll meet again. Oh, life could be a dream, if I could take you up in paradise up above, if you will tell me I'm the only one that you love, life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello, hello again, shaboom, and hope we'll meet again. Oh, shaboom, 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 shaboom. Ship
So if I was able to pick exactly what I could have done better during this whole project, well, my options are endless because this was my first attempt at creating a song completely on my own with no support, and this proved much more difficult than I first imagined. This project gave me lots to learn and lots to improve. Although if I did have to pick one thing out in particular, it would definitely be picking a tempo right at the start and building a song around that tempo instead of a certain melody that I find at random. I didn't even know what tempo my song was at the start of it, and I'd already done half of it before I cared. And this proved to be more problematic than I first thought possible. Alright, so now that you guys have seen the process and experience of making this song, I'll finally give you guys the pleasure of listening to it. Hope you enjoy.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Charlie, I think I see our house. Wow! Really looks beautiful.
If the good Lord had intended us to walk, he wouldn't have invented roller skates.
Don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted.
What happened?
He lived happily ever after.
Time is a precious thing. Never waste it.
How did you like the chocolate factory, Charlie?
I think it's the most wonderful place in the whole world.